2, 1, play. There we go.
See, Barb's fine. She'll be all right. Yeah, this is one of our first real glimpses at the Upside Down, which, when the show is all said and done, I don't know if it's going to make a lot of sense with what we reveal in season 4, but it's still it's a big part of the show's identity, and to me, one of the more unique aspects of it. Like the Upside Down is just a cool concept, and I like the atmosphere.
Yeah. And I
And
mean,
how
by
they
season 4,
designed
the
it
upside down
aesthetically.
is just like a place with a filter on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more CGI too, where they're like, yeah, we don't feel like making all these vines. Definitely more green screen. And I think the Demogorgon still looks pretty good. Like they did shoot a lot of it practically, but then ended up replacing a lot of it with CGI, which is unfortunate. But I think it mostly looks fine.
Well, she's dead, Jim.
Not yet. And obviously, like I wouldn't show this show to little kids. That's but it's for like middle schoolers and up. I've often described the show as like it's a good gateway show for more scary stuff, for more intense stuff. Like if you have, like a 12-year-old who's interested in horror and genre stuff, this isn't a bad place to start.
Yeah, no, you could show
It's
this
you
to
just gotta know your kid.
like a 13-year-old.
Yeah,
And we
but then
didn't
like,
really have anything like this as a kid, like that gateway.
mhm. Yeah, most you had was like stuff like Goosebumps. you know,
Well,
just
yeah, I guess we did
really
have
kid
Goosebumps,
centric.
but that's really like that's the kids' gate. Like,
Mm.
and I love me some Goosebumps. Don't get me wrong. I also kind of, in a way, appreciate that this is a Netflix series that shows constraint. Like, we don't have to go like over the top with the sex scenes or the nudity. Like, it's tasteful.
Yeah, this is not Euphoria.
I watched one episode of that show and went, nope.
But again, like I think the show is accessible enough, to younger viewers without also like dumbing it down or shaving off the edges too much. Especially when you get to the later seasons, like there's still a degree of growing up and maturity where, like, I'm sure there are 10-year-olds that could handle a season, but that I still wouldn't show season 4 because season 4 gets really brutal.
Like this?
Of this, dude, yeah, season 4, like the stuff with Chrissy, like
I guess.
season 4 goes to some intense places.
See, I came from that, like, I would still get shown stuff, but I'd have
Mm.
to be close my eyes for certain things. That's what I would do because that's really the only thing like it.
Yeah, and this is a very believable scene where she's has a lot of mixed feelings about what happened, and it's also, but from her mother's perspective, it's still like, hey, your brother's friend just disappeared, right? Like, this is not the appropriate time for these types of teenage antics. Like, I need to know where you are and what you're doing.
This is where Nancy comes off more bitchy. Is like, why is she so mad?
Mm. Yeah,
Although
well,
to
it's
be
because
fair, I guess
she's
it's more
really good
defensive.
looking.
Like,
Yeah, and it's got to be like off-putting or disarming when your parent in that situation is actually telling you, like, "No, I'm cool. Like, I want you to talk to me. It's fine." But most teenagers are gonna resist that. They're like, "No, like it's a trick. I want to talk to you about this."
well, and we'll get it later on, but there's also like, she doesn't want to end up like her mom.
Yeah, that's the big thing she's scared of.
I am an idiot. I labeled that season one, episode one, Holly Jolly.
It's too late to fix it.
Just for part
Wow,
of it on the stream, it'll show up as season
it's
one,
fine.
episode one.
We're getting tired here.
You're tired already?
Not only a little bit. No, I was just talking about getting the number wrong. It's fine.
Oh, yeah, no, that's where we're at, Mars. We just got past the.
Yeah, we're currently in the scene with Joyce and Jonathan, where Joyce is going crazy.
Is it me or has her hairstyle changed like every episode?
Oh yeah, she's also not showering, and she's a lot more frazzled. And this is the stuff with Jonathan that I like, where he's not just dealing with his brother being missing. It's now like, oh, now my mom is losing it, and I have to grow up and take charge. It's a very difficult situation to be in.
Mars, this would be the most scary scene if this was. No one would be able to escape the pool. Yeah, no, I think it's a very intense scene. It is a very good scene.
And as great as the show is, and I think deserves its popularity, like it's excellent. I I don't want to call it overblown, but like we have since reviewed and watched and talked about things. Like I wouldn't say this is as good as like Midnight Mass or Haunting of Hill House. It just depends on your expectation
They're
going
also
into
different.
this.
Like
But
this is a TV show.
yeah, like
Those
this
are
is
limited
entertainment
series.
first. This is trying to entertain an audience, and I think it succeeds, and I think that's fine. Not every show with compelling characters and some drama you can actually be personally invested in, but
Because
not
these are
every show
also,
needs to go beyond
at least for Midnight, like this to Midnight Mass. Midnight Mass is like a masterpiece. This is more watchable.
that.
I have
This is
to
more
be in a
rewatchable.
mood for. I have to be in a mood for Midnight Mass.
Mhm.
I was suspecting something similar. When the first idea, when the first came out, I thought the idea was fresh. Suspecting something similar to it, but very much more fresh. I mean,
Well,
that season, this first season, I would argue is very like original, fresh, just
there's
packaged with
definitely
things you remember.
some of Stephen King's it in here for sure. It's just funny that this ends up beating that movie, by like a year. And
They
then when
have
the
the
movie
same
comes out,
character,
everyone's comparing it to Stranger Things.
and they have this, and the worst mistake that movie made, even though it's a good casting, is they went to the Stranger Things kid.
Hmm. Well, at least he's not the main kid. I think he's good in that movie.
No, he is good, but if you want to
You
avoid
can't
some of
avoid
those
comparisons. Yeah.
comparisons,
And do you own any of the show on Blu-ray yet?
I do not. I want to pick up at least the first season.
I should try to get the 4Ks at some point. I have the Blu-ray, which for people who don't know is the very nice VHS inspired packaging.
So one thing I
Uh,
have heard,
I love
because
it.
the first season wasn't shot in HDR, there's not a big difference between the Blu-ray and 4K. It's
Oh,
season two
okay.
where the 4K is an upgrade.
No, good to know. But yeah, I've got both seasons and this packaging. They're very nice. And then they stopped, which is really annoying. Um,
Just give me
I
season three at least. Come on.
I would have bought it. Like, I don't think they understand. Like, guys, like the subscribers you're worried about losing. It's like chances are they'll buy the physical copy and they'll stay subscribed to watch the next season.
There's no sick they made that on VHS. It's a Blu-ray. It's
It's
just in a
just packaged.
VHS case.
Well, it's Blu-ray
That's
and
the one I
DVD.
have on my wish list actually.
Yeah, at some point now I know these didn't. I don't think these sold great because at one point at Target, like they were just giving it away, where these copies were like $10. Where it's like just people buy it. So if they weren't selling well, I get it. They might be pretty easy to get. I'm not sure.
Well, you got to make something like that, like a collector's item, appeal to the collectors.
Yeah, and it works for me because the packaging is gorgeous.
Let's see, Batman 66. Crap. What's right next to 66 on the
I love
others?
66.
With the red text. I'm curious.
Oh, that's Batman TAS and Batman Beyond.
Oh,
I
nice.
think you have those too, the Blu-ray boxes.
I mean, I thought it was a
Also,
real VHS tape of Stranger Things. That would have been interesting.
would have been fun. The problem is you'd need to put it on like 4 tapes.
More than that.
I don't know if it'd be worth it. Yeah, 4 or 5. But also we just saw Nancy in an outfit where I'm like, hey, that's one of her Dead by Daylight outfits. That's one of her skins. Ah, that's broken my brain now. Or like those are the details I see. It's like, hey, that's one of the looks they went with for that video game.
Funny.
And one of Hopper's cop buddies is Turk from Daredevil.
Oh,
So I see him. He's one of those like Netflix guys now. Or if you're watching the Netflix show, you'll often see a supporting character where it's like, oh, that's a Netflix person. That's just there. That's in all these shows, which is
well,
fine.
and I hope you know what this means. Now we've opened the gates to doing this stuff. Now we've got to do like Hill House, Midnight Mass.
Oh no, that's a lot more. This is more
Is
simple entertainment.
Oh, I guess you're talking about more just thematically, but I was like, it's only like
Mm.
Midnight Mass is actually an hour
Midnight Mass
shorter
is
than
shorter.
this.
Yeah.
I think Hill House is around the same time. It's like 10 episodes.
Yeah, Hill House is 10. Like, but some of those episodes are over now. No, Hill House is quite a bit longer than this. This first season, anyway.
And we're back in ET.
Yep. And I
Yeah,
would
do you
say
remember that as a kid having to like stand in front of the TV and switch through the channels?
I usually had a remote.
When I was real little, with my grandparents, our TV did not. So if you wanted to
Nice.
change the channel, you would have to get up and like push it until. Or in my case, you turn on the TV and your grandpa was the last one to watch it, who was deaf. So it'd be like at full volume, so you had to scramble to the volume button.
I do. There is like a ritual I miss of just scrolling through stuff and then picking something. Because the difference between like scrolling through channels, just scrolling through like YouTube or TikTok or whatever, is that if something was on, then you had to watch it or figure out when they were playing it again. But now you can just scroll through all these like YouTubes or TikToks or whatever, and it's like, well, I kind of want to watch that, but I'll watch it later, or I'll watch this later. I'll watch this later, and then it's so much harder to just pick something where it's like, well, this is playing now. I think that's why live shows are doing kind of well on YouTube now because it is something a lot more like immediate. Like, oh, I kind of like that channel and they're live, so I'm more inclined to jump in now than save a video for later. I think we're seeing a little bit of that shift.
If you're a digital collector of horror movies and you're searching for a horror movie to watch, you don't even know what you want to watch because there's so many good choices.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes and no. Like, there's also a lot of crap to wade through.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily miss that just because it was so annoyingly inconvenient, but I can definitely understand that.
yeah. If you're on Tubi,
We love Tubi. I don't know if you were there when Noah and I were talking about instead of Shutter Shuffle, next time we do something like that, doing it for Tubi.
mm-hmm.
Oh
I
wait, you
had
were
a,
because you came up with the name.
I did, but I think it's been taken too many times. I think I'll need
Ah,
to come up with something else, which is a shame because I was really proud of it. But there are too many other like smaller channels that have that as a title, and it's like, all right, gonna get too lost at the shuffle.
I don't want anyone to accuse us of ripping them off. I get all my horror movies off of Tubi. No, I mean
There's
Tubi.
some good
Tubi is
ones,
a gold mine,
dude.
but
In terms of
there's
like,
a lot of like coal in that gold mine.
yeah, but in terms of like old slasher movies, old weird stuff, like a lot of like the not the mainstream stuff, but stuff that's interesting to you. YouTube, Tubi's usually got your back.
Yeah,
Though I haven't seen a ton of jibs on there either. At best, I'll watch something and go, yeah, that's pretty good.
I watched that Easter Bunny slasher movie on there.
Oh.
It was not good.
Have you heard of P2?
Yes, I think so. I don't think I've seen it, but I know of it.
It's good. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to because it's more of a cult movie, but that was the only place I could find it, so I watched it on there. And yeah, it's about the woman who's like on Christmas stuck in a parking garage
Yeah,
with a psychopath. Like it's a good movie. It's worth watching, but
the main
I'll see it lumped in more now with like popular Christmas horror movies.
the coolest thing with Tubi is they had for a long time there. They had the majority of Argento's filmography, and I
Mm.
was going through all of his movies, so I watched some cool Argento on there.
Yeah, I still need to start going through some giallo stuff.
You gotta watch Phenomena
I do. You guys reviewed it.
and Demons. Demons is peak.
I don't know if I've heard about that one as much.
The Italians didn't fuck around, man. And it's the map from Dead by Daylight.
It's pretty good map.
Map on it. I just don't really like Dead by Daylight all that much anymore.
Hmm.
If you look at the movies I watch, they'll find some good movies. Yeah, I mean, like we said, there's good movies on there. They're just you gotta know where to look. Did you check out You Can't Kill Stephen King? I've not heard of that one.
Neither right.
I have to look into it. I like Stephen King.
This is one of those settings that feels really authentic to me. Like I have a lot of older family members, with like older kids who have since moved away, but then they don't really change the bedroom. They just kind of leave it. So it's like I've seen a lot of like time capsule like kids' bedrooms of like 80s and 90s. Like Nancy's room feels really authentic to me, which is like the band
So
they
there's a
chose and
little
some of the
thing here
furniture.
that's a Tom Cruise poster in her background there,
Mhm.
and Steve goes as Tom Cruise's character from
Risky business.
yeah, in season 2, and she still has the poster in season 4.
This was an early Tom Cruise too. Like he was in movies. I mean, this is like '83. Like he's not like one of
He's
the
not a
biggest movie
movie
stars in the world
star.
yet. Yeah.
No, I like that she's like checking out the girls' room just to see like
Yeah. What's a normal girl's life like? I wonder if like Nightmare 4 was something they looked at, like Alice's room, like with her
that
pictures and
maybe.
stuff. For reference.
I think that's just. I don't think that's a deep dive. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
You love it depends on your type of humor. Yeah, I mean it just depends. I don't know if I can like lock down my humor because I think I find things that I there are things that I think that are funny that I wouldn't necessarily think are funny normally. Yeah, see now they're just being obnoxious.
Oh yeah, these characters are the worst. I want them to die. I don't get that catharsis. Damn it.
So see, I think this is where I find the fault in Nancy's arc from the rest of the season. Is she just kind of goes along with it, but it never plays like Steve would have disbelieved her if she just pushed the issue a little bit more.
Hmm. Oh, burn! Shots fired.
Got him.
This is one of those bully kid scenes where it's like, what are you even doing here? Like you could be doing
No, it's like, did
anything
you
else.
follow them just to beat them up? Like, but no, that's one of the things that I love about this show is it's never self-aware. It's just authentic.
Right. I mean, it is doing a lot of Stephen King
Because if
tropes,
this was a
'80s tropes,
modern
but it's
show, it'd
not.
be like, what? Did you follow us here? Get it? We're self-aware.
Yeah, no, there's none of that, which is nice.
No, they go full king bully later. They're
It's
insane people.
insane.
We love a red room, folks.
Hmm.
Remember when
Have
his
you?
photography never really comes back after this season?
Yeah, it's we kind of bring it back in season 3, and that's it.
See, this is why I have a hard time defending him. If you felt bad about what you did taking the photos, you wouldn't develop them.
Oh, right. Like he's like, oh shit, this is a mistake.
It's
I have
not
taken a.
Christmas, Joyce.
It's the wrong season. I have taken a photography class and got to actually develop film
Oh, cool.
and stuff, which was a really cool process. I kind of miss it. Not a great
One,
photographer, but I like the process.
once upon a time, I wanted to be a photographer. Now I do not.
Just want pictures of Spider-Man.
The only time these two interact in the whole show.
I wonder if Baby Holly's gonna get a meaningful arc in season 5. She's always in the background, just observing
It would be
this
the one that
insanity.
dies.
Oh god.
Mars, I want to be a photographer for my book covers. Nice. But I don't got any film to make photography.
At least the scene establishes though that yeah, there are several people in this town Hopper is hooked up with that didn't last. And he's running out of options.
That's fair, Mars.
Whenever we see old like people going through like newspapers and stuff for research, that's when I'm like, oh, thank God for Google. God, I hate actual physical research. This looks so monotonous and dull.
The only way you could like make this work is if you, because this wouldn't work in the '80s, but like just bring a headset with music and.
Mm-hmm. And this one is a Walkman.
True. In like eighth grade, I broke my MP3 player, so I just walk around with like a CD, one of those portable CD players.
Nice.
I
I
broke
had
like
one of
three of
those.
them. They would fall out of my locker. But no, I legitimately would walk around school with it in my sweatshirt pocket and headphones on, listening to like Slipknot or shit.
That's pretty cool. You had to do what you had to do. You didn't have a lot of options back then.
That kid does not want to be there.
Yeah, looks so authentically bored.
Misery. Now that movie was bone chilling. I've heard good things about the movie.
Great
I
movie.
liked the book a lot.
This is getting a little close to strobe light territory. It's like, dial it back.
Stranger Things collector. I see like Dustin. I think he's the best of the kid characters.
Dustin's great. Yeah, he's like one of the closer ones we get to like comic relief or sidekick or whatever. But I mean, they just get that character like from the first season. So I don't feel like Dustin has a ton of growth over the 4 seasons. Though we do get some really good stuff with him in season 4. But also, it's like he's just always consistently entertaining and likable.
I would say his growth is growing into the role of he makes the plan.
Mhm. But also in the first 3 seasons, he's a character who doesn't usually suffer a lot of like the really personal tragedy that a lot of the other characters do. Like his big thing, obviously, is losing Will, and then he gets Will back. So he doesn't suffer a lot of the personal loss that a lot of these other characters do. But then we do get him. It's something that affects him more in season 4, and I'm looking forward to seeing how where we take him in season 5. Because I do expect season 5 Dustin to be a little more jaded and not as much of the warm, like positive personality we've been used to. Like I think he will be damaged a little next season. But no, like this is a scene where I think Steve's pretty reasonable. Like, yeah, this is it's a little aggressive, but I mean justified. Like it's I have no issues with the scene.
Stranger Things, yeah, I think he will. I think will finally get a girlfriend after 2 seasons.
I don't
I
think
got
that's where
some
they're
bad
going.
news about that. Mars doctor kidnaps another one, sending kids to war. Stranger Things, Danger Things. This is why I find Nancy really unreasonable at certain times after this. So you're gonna tell me that she's fine with this, but not with what Steve does.
But I mean, this is also gonna be important to the plot, because this is how we
Well,
get
we'll
those
get
characters
back to
paired up
this
in the
when we
car.
get to that episode.
Yeah.
I'll better explain what I mean.
Hmm.
No, like if I was Nancy, I would just leave. Like you're weird.
It's a complicated situation.
Is it?
Well, I mean, it's the picture of Barbara that we just saw that like gets her to stay with him. We've already been shown that she sympathizes with Jonathan. He's the weird loner one,
But
and she
again,
has a
like
lot
how
of
far
weird
does that
feelings.
sympathy stretch?
I don't know. I'm not in that
I'm
situation.
I'm sorry if somebody took a picture of me in my underwear, I wouldn't want anything to do with them again. Stranger Things. Did you know Will get a real haircut in season 5? I had heard something about
I
that. I hope
I
so.
think I think I've seen like a set photo or something where I'm like, thank God, good visualization of his growth. Because the haircut
Mars
seems
says
gorgeous
either
in
way,
this.
Nancy feels like the girl from Cobra Kai, but less like her. I haven't seen Cobra Kai, so I don't know. I want to go through those Karate Kid movies at some point. What a weird show though. Like started as a YouTube Red show. Remember that?
And now it's a Netflix show, and now we have a new Karate Kid movie coming out that may or
That's
may not be in the same canon.
no. It's
It's
supposed to be like It's gonna combine the original and the remake.
yeah, like I know Ralph Macchio is in it, but I'm saying it, but like I don't think anyone working on the show is working on that. So other than it being Ralph Macchio, I'm like, I don't know how connected these things are. It's a really weird situation.
It's just weird in general. Like, why are you making a new one that combines the remake with the original? I think
I
if
mean, I
anything,
like
you would
Jackie
just do a
Chan.
Cobra Kai movie that like wraps everything up.
Yeah, well, they're on the final season, and also, I mean, like I haven't watched it. I watched the pilot, which is pretty good, but it feels like a show. Like, okay, it's time to wrap this up, and now we're done. But now they're making a new movie, so it's like, okay,
I still gotta watch the movies.
no, the first one's good.
That's what I've heard.
The third one
Wax
is
on, wax
weird.
off. So, does this get weird for you later when we kind of retcon a lot of this? Because in this season, it plays like she's the only one.
Well, she is named 11, so that's your first big clue that there's other ones.
But the
I don't know
others,
if
when
I
you
have
meet
that
them,
many.
aren't named 10 or 9.
I thought they were.
I
I
don't
thought they
think
all had
so.
numbers. Yeah, we'll get there when
Maybe
we
it's
get
just
there.
they don't go by it. But especially season 4, because you've got like Vecna before he became Vecna.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't know if that fits with what we see here.
I almost just look at them as two separate things, right? Like that's kind of the best and worst thing about the show is when I'm rewatching season one, I'm not really thinking about the canon that's gonna come later that retcons and moves with this stuff. Like I'm not really thinking about that stuff when I'm just watching this. But
because
also when I'm
I'm pretty
watching
sure
season
they do
4.
straight up retcon her escape because we see it
Mhm.
in this season. But then in season 4, what helped her escape was
Yeah.
Vecna
Well, I don't
going
think it's
crazy.
literally retconned. They just add to it. I don't think we see a shot of her actually like crawling out of the pipe. I think that's just what's implied.
No, but I mean, how she got out? They show her like getting out of the facility in the season, right?
Maybe I don't remember. I don't remember
Okay.
if they actually show it or if it's just implied.
I haven't rewatched this show since before season 4 came out, and that's been a while. Meanwhile, at the ET scene,
Meanwhile,
it is kind of a wasted opportunity. She never made any of their bikes fly.
yeah, but is that going too far? Is that when we?
You can bring people back from the dead.
No, I mean like in homage, in reference. Like, look, it's the ET scene where the bike fly by. I just wonder if that's going to.
And now we're in the part where nobody talks to each other.
Yep. Well, and like you said, she's not like overtly trying to be mean to Steve here. She just has a lot. Like she's a
No,
teenager and she has a lot
my
of mixed
problem
feelings
is at
about
the
what.
theater scene, but we'll get there.
Yeah. But that's. I mean, that's also the worst thing Steve does this season.
But I have questions about how they handle it.
Have you ever heard the expression "mouth breather" before this show?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Maybe it's just an Indiana thing.
Nobody I know has ever heard the expression "dumb as a box of rocks" either, but like that's a saying I heard all the time.
Sure.
Austin was like, "What?
People say that. What does that mean?
You sir are as dumb as a box of rocks."
Rocks aren't dumb. Tell me, rocks are cool.
Fezzes are cool.
And I do like this subplot with Nancy, like her starting her own little investigation, and Barb's car is still there, and she's like, "Ah, shit."
No,
This-
I think this is cool. I do think we do get into territory of like, yeah, you're kind of being a bitch to Steve at a certain point.
yeah, that definitely happens a couple times.
Also, this might be my favorite look for Nancy, like the long hair with the shirt. Like she actually looks like a girl, like a teenage girl.
Mhm.
And season 4 is absurd. Like she has guns in her bedroom and nobody noticed. If she lived alone, I'd buy that. But like, how did you get those past your parents?
Well, her parents aren't the brightest.
Mom was too busy lusting after Billy.
Hmm.
That was a choice.
It sure was. It's your
You
favorite
know,
season, though.
when I said season 3 was my favorite, it's mostly because that's the best Steve storyline. This is the only season where Steve doesn't have the best storyline.
That's true.
Do, 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 do.
And that's part of the charm of the show to me in scenes like this, where like it works in all these different supernatural trappings but it's always rooted in sci-fi. Like that's another thing, an angle the show has. Like this is through and through a sci-fi show, but is a bit more creative and imaginative. Like, well, how do you do like a haunting ghost boy storyline and make that fit in a sci-fi setting, you know? And how do we make that work? And they do, and like that stuff I find kind of cool. Or how do we have a boy haunt Christmas lights and talk to his mom through Christmas lights and do that from a sci-fi perspective? And I think they pull it off. Because this is also very reminiscent of a Twilight Zone episode. I don't remember the name of it, but there's one where a kid goes missing in a house and is like in another dimension, but they can still hear it sometimes. They're trying to find it, and they're like looking through the house trying to find like, okay, there's like literally a portal to another dimension somewhere, and we gotta find this kid. Like this feels like intentionally or unintentionally is kind of pulling from stuff like that. And like I said, definitely a lot of poltergeist.
And I like this scene. She finally gets to just be like a normal kid.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'm not really thinking about it enough to see like, okay, is this actually realistic? Is this actually a problem or not? But it does feel like with how much stuff happens seasons, you'd think sooner rather than later, like the parents would be more involved or paying attention more. Where it's like
That
this
is
Will
the
kid.
most Nightmare on Elm Street of it all.
Mhm.
Because Nightmare on Elm Street has, I think, the worst parents in any slasher
Yeah,
or any movie I've ever seen.
and it gets worse with each movie.
Yeah,
But it's like God, like this kid Will disappeared for a while, then comes back, and then Barb is never seen again and dies, and it's like Mike and Nancy's parents aren't the worst, but it still feels like you guys should be more involved with your kids' lives than you did. They've been through a lot of trauma already in just 2 seasons. Now, do you remember when you were first watched this? If this was a bit of a gut punch for you, or you were like, "Nah, this isn't. This is totally a setup. This isn't."
I
Because
don't remember, but my usual experience with these things is like I don't get so invested like, oh, he's dead, I'm really sad. It's like, oh, that's shocking.
yeah, I don't remember. I think I was more just like, I don't know where this is going.
2016. I can't even. And see, it's funny because I don't even remember where and when I watched this for the first time. But I know that I saw at least season. I know I had to have seen it before season two dropped. Because I get into this, like, I start following the show. Or maybe it was when season two was coming out. I was like, oh, I'll binge it, I'll catch up.
Yeah, it may have been shortly after season two came out when I started watching it because I don't remember having to wait for season two. Because first, my sister watches the show, she loves it, then she shows it to my mom, and then I watch this with my mom and my sister. Maybe that part's kind of fuzzy. I've definitely seen some of the show with my sister, but I so I do remember the first time I watched this. But it may have been after season two was already out because I remember when season two was coming out, like, oh yeah, like everyone's talking about the show. I still didn't really know what it was, but I knew it was popular. And but I do remember not having to wait for season two, and then having to wait for season three because that was the first like where there was kind of a longer gap between seasons.
Andrew, Ken, welcome in, welcome in. This is not it.
Yeah, I'm looking back at like when these were coming out. Season 2 came out fall 2017, so like just a little over a year after season 1, and then it's almost 2 years between season 2 and season 3. So it's like after that point, the gaps just get longer and longer
I think
between
then
seasons.
it either was like right before two came out or when two was coming out because I remember the first. So I actually remember the first time I watched two more because it's like, oh, that's how we're gonna break these two up with Steve and Nancy. I hate the Halloween party scene, but we'll get there.
But I do think this is an effective scene. I like the use of the song, and I think all the actors do a really good job.
They have new It's Welcome to Derry. Do you? I heard they were doing that show. I'm not really that interested, but
Didn't they announce that Bill Skarsgård is coming back for that?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna watch it, but I just know that's happening.
I mean, we might cover it. It's popular enough. I
Did
just
you
don't
ever
care. You
watch?
told the story.
Yeah, did you ever watch the Castle Rock show that
I
like
watched the
tied
first
together all the
season. It was
seasons
pretty good.
canceled? I remember hearing it was okay, and then like everyone dropped off, and then it was canceled. So
Yeah.
it's like,
Season
well,
one has
it's over.
Jane Levy in it,
Oh,
playing Jackie Torrance. Jack Torrance's niece that we never knew about.
weird.
That takes her uncle's name because it pisses her mom off. No, this is an effective cliffhanger, but at the same time, I think this is something. This is a casualty of the binge uh, release schedule. He can't be dead. There's five more episodes.
Mhm.
I don't know how you guys do it, but I'm trying to put myself in the movie. I just still seem to have the same skill as you. I just when I watch something, I'm just watching it. Welcome to Derry. It's coming trailer 2025. I know they were working on it. I just eh?
But also, it's like if you're paying attention, you know, like okay, there's something else going on. Like we just had Joyce freaking out with the Christmas lights. Like there's all this stuff that doesn't add up. And also, you know, in a normal show back in the day, you know, you have to wait a week to get some answers. And instead, it's like I just start in the next episode. But again, like this is one of the better binge shows in my opinion because stuff actually happens episode to episode that once you keep watching it, it's not just a filler episode and then a cliffhanger and then a filler episode and then a cliffhanger.
No, that's season four.
Like
Instead of filler episodes, it's filler arcs.
yeah.
Well, and I mean they fall into that trap as close to season two. I don't care what you say or if you like it. That episode with Levin in Chicago is filler.
I think it could have not been filler, but I mean, at this point, we haven't gotten back to it, so it's hard to say it's not.
I don't know if they're working on a new movie yet because they're still doing the TV show, Andrew. No,
I
that
think the only issue with that one is it just doesn't really justify being its own episode. Like you could have just like had that as a subplot split over a couple episodes of other
it just
stuff.
feels
I
like a
don't know.
failed pilot.
Well, I mean, it's a backdoor pilot. Like that's what it was.